oh man, are we starting this week off with a bang here at City National Arena. So much has changed since this show aired 1 week ago, and could be more on the horizon. So I'm Ashali Vise, joined by Dan Duba to talk it over here on Nighttime at Noon, presented by Station Casinos. Dan, it's a Monday, but who needs coffee when you have all of this free agency frenzy news to get the blood pumping this morning?
How are you, Ashley?
I'm doing fantastic.
It's different. The way the NHL schedule has worked out in recent years, with the season going a little bit longer, the draft being in late June, which is later than it usually, and then right up against free agency. And, don't forget, they just announced not only the preseason schedule, which we just heard on the radio, but also the home opener.
So
there's
October
a lot
9th.
of news here in just a short period of time, just a few days, from Stanley Cup to draft, free agency, and then development camp begins today too.
Yep, exactly what I was going to say was Darren Millard and Brian McCormick, who sat here a week ago, did not even know who the Stanley Cup champion would be at that point. Now the draft has come and gone at the Sphere. Excited to talk about all of that because today is the first day of free agency. VGK insider Gary Lawless will be joining us. These days are like Christmas for Gary Lawless.
He's coming on our show.
He's coming on our show.
Our show?
2 segments, yes.
2 segments?
Yes, 2 segments.
I got to write
Get
that
ready
down.
for it. Oh, yeah, but we would be remiss if we buried the lead here and didn't go ahead and talk about what's been the biggest news so far of the day as it pertains to the Vegas Golden Knights, and that is that Jonathan Marchessault has signed with the Nashville Predators.
Marchessault to the Predators, and no doubt he'll be remembered as one of the great players in Golden Knights franchise history, especially through the first 7 seasons, and a Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and as of this moment is the leader in multiple offensive categories and will be loved in this city for years and years to come. But the reality is the Nashville Predators could offer Marchessault a contract that did not fit in the way that the Golden Knights salary structure is built. The Predators are swinging big. Look at what they've done not only with Jonathan Marchessault today, but Steven Stamkos, who was in Tampa Bay for 16 years, was the captain of that organization, and obviously part of several teams that went to the Cup final, won it twice. Just goes to show the teams that are winning know how to win, put a team together using every asset available, know where that limit is. And sure, the fans in Tampa would love to keep Stamkos. The fans in Vegas would love to keep Marchessault. But it's not the first time that the Lightning have let popular players go, or that the Golden Knights have let popular players go. Think about, say, Alex Killorn or Andre Palat. With Vegas, you know the list. There have been some popular players, but because it's a business, the organization thinks about what makes most business sense. And hey, the Nashville Predators had the money, and they are swinging big. They're on the cusp. New GM Barry Trotz. So, best wishes to Jonathan Marchessault, and now we'll see what the Golden Knights do next.
Yep, the Predators signing defenseman Brady Shea as well.
Sure,
so they're certainly making some moves there in Nashville. Gary Lawless will talk to us about that, I'm sure. Kelly McCrimmon's also going to be meeting with the media much later today after the show ends, but we'll kind of get his perspective. In terms of what the Golden Knights could do, what we do know is that Kelly McCrimmon said over the weekend that they are in the market for another goaltender to be part of the tandem with Adin Hill because they made a move over the weekend that sent Logan Thompson to the Washington Capitals. Kelly McCrimmon explains his thoughts there.
So we completed a pair of trades today. The first trade was the trade of Logan Thompson to the Washington Capitals for 2 third-round draft choices. Logan is a player that I've known since he was 15 years old. We had him at a development camp when he was still in junior. He then went to the ECHL with South Carolina, established himself at that level there as a young goaltender with a lot of promise. We signed him to an NHL contract in July of 2020. He played 4 seasons for us. After that time, he was an American League Goaltender of the Year with the Silver Knights, and then part of our Stanley Cup winning team a year ago, and then this year sharing the net with Adin Hill, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. Logan had got to a point in his career where he felt he needed a change, so he had requested a trade from the organization, and I think he holds us in high regard. I know we hold him in high regard. It happens. It's things that like this happen across the NHL. We accommodated that here today with a trade that we think represents good value for Logan and gives him that opportunity that he was looking for to begin to pick up and begin again elsewhere. We had talked about it different times, and as recently as early in June, it was a conversation that we had. And I think what what Logan is yearning for and believes very strongly is he's the number one goaltender in the NHL. And I think when you go back 2 years, the start he had, he really gained the trust of Sean Burke, our goaltending coach, as well as Bruce, our head coach, Cassidy, and made the All-Star team on his merits, and then from there on, never was back in the net, save one game for the balance of the season, which of course became the Stanley Cup championship, which is where Adin Hill emerged. And when you win a Stanley Cup with a goaltender, that accomplishment entrenches you pretty well in terms of the eyes of the organization. And I think for Logan, he feels really strongly that he can go somewhere, compete, and become that guy. So I think as I said, I'm not sure exactly what Logan will tell you, but I know that's his motivation. He'll speak highly of the organization, I'm sure, and we'll speak highly of Logan. And as I touched on, these things happen, and it's entirely based on where he thinks he's at professionally. He just wants that chance to be a number one goalie. That's really, I think, what it came down to. It's interesting. Logan played more games in the regular season for our team this year than Adin. He played more games in the playoffs this year than Adin, and yet Adin is our starter. And I think Logan wants to, maybe just get to a situation where that might be an opportunity that he could pursue.
So Dan, certainly a time of the year where a lot of emotion is involved. This seems like a move that's plain and simple good for both sides.
Right. Well, when you have a young player, and Logan Thompson is 27, turned 27 in February, and for goaltending parlance, that's still relatively young, and he's a little bit younger than Adin Hill. There is an opportunity for different goaltenders in different situations. Consider Laurent Brossoit, where he has been a backup in Vegas and, of course, in Winnipeg. But, moving into Chicago, for example, where you've got, maybe some headway to be a number one goalie at age 31. Logan Thompson is still at an age where, depending on what happens with the Washington Capitals, he could prove himself to be a number one goalie and really stamp his claim. As Kelly mentioned there in that clip, the number of regular season games played for Logan was more than for Adin Hill, but the Knights have had those recurring goaltending injuries. And by the time Adin Hill got healthy again, eventually did play more playoff minutes than Logan did in the first round against the Dallas Stars. For the Golden Knights, an opportunity to move on, find somebody else that will complement Adin Hill. They did make one goaltending transaction as part of the deal with the New Jersey Devils the other day, and they sent Paul Cotter to the Devils. Holtz coming over, a forward, but also Akira Schmid, who I think will be the organization's number 3 goaltender, as Yuri Patera, it appears, has moved on. So with Schmid coming over from the Devils, then you're thinking about, okay, who's in that number 2 spot? And there are reports today that the Golden Knights are going to take on a goaltender who at one point also was with the Washington Capitals, but recently with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that is goaltender Ilya Samsonov. I think that for Samsonov, another fresh start would be right up in his kitchen. Go from Washington to Toronto, and he played most of the games for the Leafs last year and also in the postseason. Maybe that is, once again, sort of a goaltender in that age range. Once upon a time was a first-round pick for the Capitals. So there's that opportunity for a goaltender. There's that sort of revolving door of goalies this time of year, and sometimes the change of scenery, sometimes the roles, salary cap situation. Maybe that's what makes most sense for Samsonov coming to the Golden Knights and for the Leafs. And obviously Logan Thompson, greener pastures, he hopes would be back in Washington, where once upon a time he played in that organization in the ECHL for the South Carolina Stingrays.
And 171 games played for Ilya Samsonov, so the experience is there. And it tells you something about the organization, the job Sean Burke has done, when each of the goaltenders have the ability to even be a number one somewhere potentially.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Ashley. We think back to last season, the 22-23 season, when the Knights had 4 wins in a row using 4 different goaltenders, which had never been done before. And, there were 5 goaltenders who saw their name on the Stanley Cup. I mean, that is remarkable. So, yeah, Sean Burke is a big part of that. And the coaching staff having a feel for how different guys ought to be used, the plan, more and more. you have the need for having a lead goaltender. Maybe it's not a old-fashioned somebody gets 65, 70 games like Martin Brodeur used to do on a regular basis. It might not be a totally even split, 41 and 41, but you want to have that reliability, because if a goaltender does go down for a period of time, as Aiden Hill has, that you can very much trust in whoever that number 2 guy is. And then sometimes you have competition, and that competition breeds success. But with Sean Burke and his smooth hand guiding things, you have a feel that goaltending is in good hands with the Golden Knights.
So there's just scratching the surface of the free agency news. We're going to dive into so much more when Gary Lawless joins the show here in just a little bit. But there are other faces joining the organization as well, thanks to the draft that was at the Sphere in Las Vegas over the weekend. Before we even get into the new members of the organization, how incredible was it to once again see Vegas, center of the hockey world, and for it to be as successful and incredible as it was. Wow.
Right. Well, you said it, Ashley. There's been a lot of talk about the National Hockey League making the draft a remote operation rather than having it at an NHL venue. And while the Sphere is not an NHL venue, it is at least a venue where everybody located themselves inside. I thought it was spectacular. And all the reports from those who attended, the draftees, the players, organizations, and, of course, the many, many thousands of fans. Seemed like a big hit. And maybe they decide that Vegas, maybe the Sphere specifically, could be a home for the draft in the future. Not exactly in the plans at this moment, but I think that what we saw at the Sphere in Las Vegas might very well be an indication to some folks. Steve Mayer has talked about it. Whatever the cost was, it was worth it to have that event. Maybe that will be a sign of things to come.
And the Golden Knights' first-round pick, Trevor Connolly, said he was speechless, not only about the Sphere, but the reaction from the fans. He told Darren Millard in a conversation that they had afterward that he blacked out a little bit, but I think he's kind of wrapped his mind around it. He'll be here at development camp this week. We'll talk about who else will be here at development camp this week and, of course, dive into free agency here in just a few minutes. Before we take a break, I want to let you know that the Foley Food and Wine Society was created to celebrate 3 of Bill and Carol Foley's greatest passions: world-class wines, exceptional cuisine, and magnificent travel destinations. Members of the society will have access to an entire portfolio of properties around the world and have exclusive opportunity to join like-minded individuals who seek experiences for the finer things in life. Join for free today by visiting FoleyFoodAndWineSociety.com. All right, now we're cooking here on Nighttime at Noon, presented by Station Casinos, because on the first day of NHL free agency, the Vegas Golden Knights insider Gary Lawless joins us. Gary, how is that screen time looking this morning?
Oh, it's been busy. Yes.
It's up there.
I got up at 4:30 a.m.
Whoa.
This is like...
Has your phone given you the spit out yet of 900% of normal screen time?
No, not yet. Shane likes to make fun of me.
In
on
fairness,
these
his screen
days.
time is always high.
That's exactly.
But
Hey, first of all,
it's amplified
before we
today.
go any farther, this is a very special day. It's Canada Day.
It is
I
Canada Day.
forgot. I'm
Happy
sorry.
Canada
I
Day.
should have led with that. All of these signings have me distracted.
I'm going to invite you to both tonight. Mark Chinook, The Space.
Oh.
It's Monday's dark, and then Brent Fitz, who he's played with Kiss, Motley Crue. He has a Canadian band called Took, and they go up to Canada and they play concerts. It's on all Canadian set list.
All right.
I'm going tonight.
All right. So we
Danny,
know where Gary's at
I'll
tonight.
put you on the.
Most of our listeners and viewers, I'm assuming, are American listeners and viewers. So toque is also a name for a beanie or a toboggan, depending on what you call it, which region of the U.S.
A
you're from.
toboggan?
A
A
knit hat.
toboggan is a sled.
Some people use that term to describe a toque. And important question, though, will there be Caesars? If so, I'm in every time.
Absolutely, there'll be Caesars. I've been to Monday's Dark, and they do a great job. It's really fun. They raise money for all kinds of great causes in Vegas. But, and I will say this, there could be special guest, Vegas Golden Knights Director of Goaltending Sean Burke.
Whoa.
Well, this is the second shout
On the
out for
guitar,
Sean Burke.
I hope.
I was asked this morning by Brent Fitz, the tremendous. He's from Winnipeg, so the band has someone from Saskatoon, someone from Winnipeg. It was
Equal province
Brent texted
opportunity.
me this morning and said, "What can Berkey play?" And I saw Berkey in the parking lot. We've seen him play Tom Petty and
Mary Jane's
in
Last Dance.
Nashville.
I think I've heard that one.
But that's not Canadian. So he said I could play Bryan Adams, Summer of '69, and then he said I could play Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World.
Okay. It would be
So that's
appropriate.
a lot of Canadian.
So Gary Lawless is going to be rocking out tonight. You have some work to do before then,
All right,
Gary. So we're
if
going to
you
dive
insist.
into all of this
Sure.
free agency news. Let's just start with the big one. Jonathan Marchessault signing with the Nashville Predators. Your thoughts?
Well, congratulations to Jonathan. You work hard for your whole career to get that chance to be an unrestricted free agent, and for him, this opportunity comes when he's 33. He cashed in, and great for him. It's 5 years by 5.5, I believe. So that gives his family added security. I know the Golden Knights tried to sign him. It will eventually. We'll learn. Someone will tell someone, and we'll kind of have an idea of what Vegas had on the table. But it would have been a very strong offer. Listen, the player is an independent contractor who has to look after the people in his house. He's got a wife. He's got 4 kids. Joe?
4 kids.
Dan?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is his last chance. Kelly McCrimmon is the general manager of a perennial contender, and almost by definition, that means that the team is brushing up against the salary cap all the time. And Nashville had cap space because they have not been a contender. They had cap space that allowed them, they went nuts. Barry Trotz grabbed the owner's credit card. Stamkos, Brady Shea for
Mega.
a lot of money.
And years.
Stamkos for a lot of money, and Marchessault for a lot of money. And 5 years, Jonathan will be 38 when this contract expires. And every organization is in a different place. The Golden Knights are in a place right now where they cannot pay for past performance. You got to pay for what is going to come next. And no one knows what Jonathan Marchessault is going to be capable of when he's 38 years old. I hope he's great. I hope he goes there and rings the bell and they win a lot of games except for when they're playing the Golden Knights. And let's not pretend we don't love Jonathan Marchessault. We do. Dan has a relationship going back to their time in the American Hockey League.
Yeah.
Marchessault came here. He planted the flag of hockey in this town. He won the Stanley Cup. He won the Conn Smythe. Scored 42 last year. There's lots to love about him. Ask me point blank, would I have given him a 5-year deal?
Yeah. And I'll throw one more element to this, Gary, and you touched on it, the age. The age not only meaning where he is now and where he'll be at the end of the contract, but also his age when he broke into the NHL. Yeah. He was undrafted and was with the first, the Rangers organization in the minors, and that really didn't pan out into much of anything. Signed with the Blue Jackets organization because they promised him to be among the first call-ups. They played a grand total of 2 games with Columbus, did not like how they handled him there, requested a trade. And the Tampa Bay Lightning at the time swooped in. It was 2014, and then made his move up to the NHL with that organization. But he didn't play, really, in the NHL until the 15-16 season. Yep. Right? So, that's only 9 years ago. In other words, while you think about, yes, he's 33 going on 34, his start was later. And again, the money that means so much to the family, he didn't have meaningful contracts early in his career while some other people did. So you can understand he gets a raise and he gets term. So, as you said, he'll be missed. But for Jonathan, the person, and the fact that he had to, be that underdog, I mean, he's my size. That he's got to do that. Yeah, I always say Jonathan and I see eye to eye, and it's because we are the same height. He's listed at 5'9", but I'm not 5'9".
Yeah, and listen, Jonathan is super proud.
Yeah,
and he's got a shoulder on his chip.
Exactly.
That's I didn't say that wrong. I said it the way I wanted it to say. You know what I mean? It's him against the world.
Yep.
That's what makes
one
of the
fantastic
things that makes him so special.
Yeah.
There's going to be hurt feelings, but I hope no one says anything or does anything that he should be able to. This should be a happy story. He came here, was so important to the team here, won a Stanley Cup, won a major NHL award. Jonathan got a bit of a chance in Florida. They let him go. Vegas made Jonathan Marchessault became a household name in the NHL playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. The team should have gratitude towards him. He should have gratitude towards the team. Down the road, everyone should be happy for one another.
Yeah.
A different underdog story of sorts, not quite to the extent of Jonathan Marchessault, but someone else whose career took a big step when he came here to Vegas was Chandler Stevenson, and he is now in Seattle for the next 7 years. That's a great contract for him as well.
7 by what, 6.25?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so I don't, that's got to be close to, it's not quite 50 million, but north of 45 million. And Chandler, his last contract was under $3 million. And that was his first kind of real big one. This is security for him and his family. That's a long ticket. I think Vegas worked hard to try and sign Chandler during the season, and that they didn't make enough headway. And when Tomas Hertl was traded for, that you could look at it as that was Chandler's money.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights were able to get. The Golden Knights were able to get salary cap security and insurance when they acquired Hertl, because they got San Jose to retain some money, and they know that for the next 6 years they have Hertl just north of $6 million. So that kind of, the writing was on the wall at that point in time for me. Also, there's only so many spots down the middle, and Hertl's the center. He's going to play center.
Yeah. And they're the same age, too.
Yeah. So, Kelly McCrimmon, he did a lot of his July 1 work back at the deadline because he acquired Hertl and Hanifin. Hertl, it was in the second year of an 8-year deal, so now you've got him for 6 more, and then he extended Hanifin for 8 years. So 8 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he did some of that, a lot of that work. Listen, any team that could have said today, we signed Hurdle and Hannafin and got them on long-term
win.
extensions, that would be a massive win. So that Kelly got a lot of that work done at that point in time, and the money that came in at that point in time, sort of predicted that there was going to be some people that were going to leave today.
Is writing on the wall. I mean, the money, the people, it just doesn't add up.
I actually want to run through the list of just a few other familiar faces that will no longer be part of the organization as they have signed elsewhere. Dan, Gary, either of you just stop me when I say one you would like to talk about. Alec Martinez, 1-year deal in Chicago.
Stop right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to talk about Alec Martinez.
I will say this. When Shane Knighty walked into the office, I said to him, Marty just got a 1-year deal with the Blackhawks for $4 million, and Shane just beamed.
Yeah.
Like, wow, great for him. Shane, a former defenseman in the NHL, had a greater appreciation for what those people go through. And the Blackhawks just got, one of the best leaders in the NHL. The Blackhawks media just got a real thoughtful person who will give them great answers and great interviews. And Connor Bedard and all those young players in Chicago just got a guy that they can really look up to. And if they approach the way they're going to play in the NHL the way Alec Martinez did on a day-to-day basis, they're going to have great careers.
Yeah.
And Alec, with 3 Stanley Cup rings, has had a great career. And, physically, it's he's blocked more shots than just about anybody ever. I hope he can get through this year in good shape and feel good about the way things go, because obviously a huge favor of ours.
Yeah, I'll echo all of that. I could say so much more about Alec Martinez. I would have to say, in interviewing how many Golden Knights over the years, I'm not sure that I have enjoyed our pregame chat with Alec Martinez. I can't think of another player I'd rather talk to than Alec.
So when we wrote the book, It Hurts to Win, last summer, which is the story of the 22-23 Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup champions, misfits to champions, a devotion to destiny. I think someone said something like that.
Something kind of like that.
Yeah. You hear it all the time now. It's such a great call. It's what's so great about it is it's not torqued or hyped, and it just you really nailed it beautifully, and it is with the patina of time, it's getting even better.
Well, thank you.
Anyways, when I interviewed Alec for the book, I interviewed Pietrangelo in the morning. We blocked out an hour. I was on the phone with him for 2 hours. We blocked out an hour in the afternoon for Martinez. We were on the phone for 2 hours. I've got the transcript still. I used a portion of it. It was so good. And the things that he talked about, sharing the cup with his new wife, she wasn't there with him when they won in L.A.
That's a long time ago now.
She was able to be part of this family. Younger guys on the team that had never won. It was really interesting to hear it through his eyes. He'd done it before, and now for him it was, and this tells you so much about him, it was watching these other people get it for the first time and seeing what it meant to them. That meant more to him in this version of his championship story journey than actually getting a third ring himself.
Yeah,
really cool.
He has a big imprint on a lot of the younger players and older players too, but a big imprint that he has left on a lot of people in this organization.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Michael Amadio signed a 3-year deal in Ottawa, and Will Carrier, Carolina Hurricanes, for him.
Yeah, so 6 years for Will. That makes me happy. He is an original Golden Knight, a guy who plays hard. Hard to stay in the lineup a lot the way he plays, and getting that security, that 6 years, that'll be great for him. And nobody in Carolina is going to have a door that squeaks or a cupboard door that hangs funny. Mr. Fix-It,
no doubt,
is going to Carolina. And I love Michael Amadio. It was such a great story. He's a waiver pickup and a waiver claim, and Bruce Cassidy works him hard, and he eventually becomes an everyday NHL player. And now, it'd be good for his family. And his family is from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. His wife's family is from Thunder Bay, Ontario. And now they're going to be in Ottawa. So still, you wouldn't want to drive that. Sault Ste. Marie to Ottawa, 10 hours. Ottawa to Thunder Bay, north of 16.
Some Canadian geography here.
But they can fly. It's Canada.
Yeah. And I think that the, sort of a theme with these folks, Ashali, Stevenson, and Matteo and Carrier, when they got to this organization, I'm not sure that anybody was, throwing like, this is unbelievable. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
These were not highly heralded players. I remember Jay Beagle telling me about Chandler Stevenson when they were together in Washington. He knew how good Stevenson could be, but he didn't want to tell anybody because he was concerned they'd take him off of the fourth line and Beagle wouldn't have him there. Similar, like I remember when the Knights were in Toronto, they claimed Amadio from the Leafs. He just moved across the hall. Yeah. And then if you would have said, guys, on that night when Amadio was claimed that a couple years later he'd score an overtime game-winning goal against the Winnipeg Jets that would help the Knights eventually go on to win the Stanley Cup championship. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, and don't lose sight of that, right? Do we have to break, Ashley?
We're about to have to break. But
all those guys got their name on the Stanley Cup here.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, when they're, they'll probably all get private jets and fly out wherever they have to go. But let's, for visual sake, when they pack up the station wagon and they point it to their next destination, that should be the thing that resonates the most. Yeah. I came here and I did the most important thing a hockey player can do. I won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up with this, Ashali. I think we're talking about what these guys have done for the organization, and there's a lot of looking forward to do, but I think it's significant to look at what these guys have brought to the organization, because as an organization, you're invested in winning and getting the most out of an asset, in this case individual players, assets, draft picks, salary, etc. But these assets, the Knights got something out of these players that helped them win a championship, and it's worth recognizing those things. Who knows where they go next, in terms of success, wins, and losses. You hope that they do well individually, but it is worth recognizing that the Knights got a lot out of these players while they were with the Golden Knights.
Absolutely. Gary touched on it when talking about Jonathan Marchessault and how much we all love Jonathan Marchessault. All of these players, it's been an incredible locker room for the last several seasons, a tight-knit locker room. So it's one of those things where there's no one who you would want to see go. It's the way that it goes from a people standpoint. Yeah. So we'll hear Cully McCrimmon talk later today on the hockey side of things. What's that, Gary?
The Golden Knights will go on. They're gonna fill this roster, and they're gonna be a hell of a hockey team. And I won't be surprised at all if they're playing. They're gonna move it back, so hopefully, I think they're gonna start early in October. Maybe that's the next CBA.
Yeah, anyways, a couple of years.
Don't be surprised if the Golden Knights are playing in June.
I like it. We have to take a break. We're going to talk more around the league moves when we come back. But first, Golden Knights fans, night up your vehicle with the Vegas Golden Knights license plate. Show your spirit for the Golden Knights no matter where you go. Become the ultimate fan and grab your new license plate today. Visit dmvnv.com/plates to show your pride. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon. Ashali Vise with Dan Duva and VGK insider Gary Lawless. If you're just tuning in, we've been breaking down everything about NHL free agency frenzy today as it pertains to the Golden Knights. But now we're going to go around the league a little bit, Gary. I think the easiest thing to do, because there have been so many moves around the league today, is I'm just going to start naming deals, and you guys stop me when you're ready to talk about one. Jake DeBrusk to Vancouver. That impacts the Pacific Division. Nikita Zadorov to Boston. Any of these?
Well, let's talk Boston. I like Boston's had a good day. They got Zadorov and they got Lindholm, so they added some
from Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's two guys, two Vancouver defensemen, both end up with the Bruins.
Lindholm is an excellent two-way center, and he got pretty good money, like 7 by 7.75, something like that. Zadorov is, Zadorov to me isn't. He's a fan favorite because he's got some oomph to his game, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. Jake DeBrusk, good young player, not so young anymore. It'll be interesting to see how he functions with Rick Tocchet, because Jake was not quiet about his displeasure in playing for Bruce Cassidy. Bruce wanted more out of him, and pushed it, and Jake bristled at that. Rick Tocchet does it a little bit differently than Bruce, but nonetheless, if you're not playing, you hear about it, and you lose playing time.
Yeah.
So
it'll be his third head coach in 4 years.
Yeah.
With Jim Montgomery obviously taking over for Bruce Cassidy in Boston.
Yeah.
Other news in the Pacific Division: Victor Arvidsson signs with Edmonton, and Corey Perry just announced re-signs with the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, I don't know why you would sign Corey Perry, because I don't know, like what's every team he's played for over the last 4 years has lost the Stanley Cup final. Isn't that
Well, at least they've gotten there.
Like he was in.
Silver. We're gonna start calling you Darren Millard with that silver line.
Oh boy! Wow. Well, I mean, Corey Perry is staunchly in the category of wily old veteran.
Yeah.
And for someone who is, of the same birth year as Corey Perry, I like to see these guys find a way to continue to contribute. And I don't know exactly how he impacted that room.
Yeah.
It has to be more than that. You're not going to sign a player strictly because of what he brings to the room. It has to be a significant on-ice contribution as well. I wonder how much the stars there said, hey, we want to keep Corey Perry around.
Well, I'll say one thing about him. Like, he's made his money, right? He's made north of $100 million, and every contract he's signed over the last couple of years has been. Well, he signed that weird contract in Chicago that no one really understood why they were paying him that much, but he's right around $1 million. This deal is 1.4, I think. So clearly he just loves to play hockey, and there's nothing wrong with having a guy like that who loves to come to the rink and be part of the process and trying and wanting to play. I had a neighbor in Winnipeg who played in the NHL for a long time, over 1,000 games, north of 200 playoff games, won 3 Stanley Cups, and then played in the American League for 5 years. After all of that, played the American League as a 19-year-old, and then went to the NHL and never went back there again. And then when he couldn't get an NHL contract, he signed with it's Mike Keane, signed with the Manitoba Moose in his hometown in Winnipeg, and played for 5 years. And when they phoned him, he phoned me I was going to a golf tournament, and he phoned me as I was driving there and said, they just called me and told me I can't play anymore. That's how he described it. Mm-hmm. And it was just it was literally like he was a kid and he was being told you can't play anymore. And so I think there's a little bit of Corey Perry. There's a little bit of that story in Corey Perry.
Brandon Montour to Seattle. We acknowledge Chandler Stevenson to Seattle as well.
Yeah. A couple of long-term contracts.
Yeah,
for the Kraken.
so
each 7 years.
Yeah.
Florida loses Montour, and see, this is the thing, right? Marchessault is moving on, and fans are disappointed. You have to spend money to get really good players to win the Stanley Cup, and they made a decision in Florida. Do we keep Sam Reinhart and all those goals?
That was an 8-year deal for Sam Reinhart re-signing in Florida.
Yeah. And when they made that deal, that meant Lomberg is no longer going to be there. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who was when they made that change, they lost the 3 in a row, and then they made that change late in Game 6 that then had a ton of benefit for them in Game 7, and OEL was critical for them, and Montour has been, him and Ekblad are very different. Ekblad is Pietrangelo, and Montour is Theodore. Montour has been a very important piece.
Yeah, and a second pair guy, not your top pair guy. And
Shea is technically a second pair guy too, but
right, and that's what I mean.
Not really.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And so in Seattle, he'll be a top pair guy. I mean, Vince Dunn.
I don't know. It'll be
how they configure that.
He'll be in their top 4 for sure.
Yeah.
People in Seattle love him. He's fun to watch. He's kind of a rover.
Yeah.
As much as a defenseman.
And from a Seattle point of view, I mean, they made the playoffs in their second season.
Yeah.
They did not make it in their third, and you wonder, obviously a coaching change, where the trajectory lies for the Kraken.
Someone in that market said to me recently, everyone who bought tickets signed up for 3-year contracts.
Uh-huh.
And year 2, they made the playoffs. People got excited. Year 3, they missed. I'm not so sure. I'm going to re-up. I think they lost some ticket revenue, and now they have realized we need to have an impact in the market with a good team, and they've gone out and they fired Dave Hackstall. I felt bad for Dave. I like him.
Yeah.
We'll see if Dan Bilesma had a good run in Pittsburgh and then was let go, and had to climb back to the NHL. We'll see how Disco Dan fares this time around.
In that organization, Coachella Valley, Western Conference champions 2 years in a row, and both years losing the Calder Cup final to the Hershey Bears, the Capitals affiliate.
Former member of the Pacific Division, Chris Tanev played many seasons with the Calgary Flames. The Golden Knights faced him as a member of the Dallas Stars in the first round of this year's postseason. He signs in Toronto.
Yeah, so Miro Heiskanen is the best defenseman in Dallas, and you can make the argument that he's the best defenseman in the NHL. He's right up there. He's very good. Chris Tanev changed that team.
Yeah.
He made them, Dan and I covered that series on the radio. We talked about it all the time. He was so good. And Dallas, Pete DeBoer will be, that will bother him that Chris Tanev is moving on. And that's a really good signing for Toronto. And, the market won't bother him. He'll just go and do his thing.
6 years, that'll take him to age 40.
Yeah, that's, again, you know what I mean? Brian Burke has said, it's a great quote. He said, July 1st is when we, as managers, is the day we make more mistakes than any other day of the year. And there's players are all of a sudden, Marchessault doesn't leave Vegas if they don't think he can get more money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Stamkos doesn't get that deal unless, what do they offer him in Tampa? They offered him 8 by 3.5. They kind of flipped this, right? 4 by 8. Is that what his deal was?
Yeah, I'd have to double check.
Something like that, right? So it's pretty similar money. It's just it's structured differently. It's a little more money in Nashville, but unless there's that competition, that drives the salaries up for players on this day. Salaries on July 1 are inflated. Simple as that.
So Nashville with the biggest splash so far. Gary, we've talked about that it has not been confirmed by the team just yet, but swirling that Ilya Samsonov will be a member of the Golden Knights. Are you expecting any other moves out of the VGK before we let you go?
I have no idea. I think they probably look at, Marchessault scored 42 last year, and I think they probably think that Dorofeev will score some more, and Alexander Holtz, who came in from New Jersey, is a very talented young guy. Listen, maybe you put Holtz with Jack Eichel, and he fills the net. I don't know. There's Dorofeev, I think, will fit really nicely with Hurdle. So, but then again, maybe that Kelly McCrimmon has something else up his sleeve. We'll see. I think Samsonov or Samsonov, we're going to find out when.
Yeah, Joe Bowen on Toronto radio says Samsonov.
Yeah.
At least
We
during the
decided
playoffs.
we
So-
will ask him if
Yeah.
he in fact is here, and we're able to ask
Yeah.
him Samsonov or Samsonov. We had that
The
situation
moment we're going with
Evgeny
Joe.
He won a lot of
Dadonov,
games. He won a lot of games last
Dadonov,
year. He won a
yes.
lot of games last year. And again, I think he will benefit from working with Sean Burke and from playing for Bruce Cassidy. So I like that tandem. I think Aiden Hill is going to be, I think he really figured something out about his body last year, and he's going to. I think he's going to be durable and fantastic, because I think he also figured something out about, he came back and he struggled a little bit, and then late in that series against Dallas, he found his game. Aiden Hill was very good. Can I say this? Now that the playoffs are over,
We didn't say yes, but go for it.
I'm saying it anyways, Ashley. If Vegas had have won Game 7 against Dallas, we might all be drunk still.
The Lawless of the offseason, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
Sounds like
yesterday
Gary's
was the
going to be-
parade.
Yeah.
Sounds
in
like Gary's
Florida.
going to be for
They're
Canada
still all
today.
drunk.
And it's
Right?
still drenched from the rain they have
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
in
We know
South
where
Florida.
Gary's mind is at here
Yep,
on
okay.
Canada Day. I thought it would be all on parade to see. Gary, thank you so much for being here.
Favorite Canadian rock song or artist?
Brian Adams comes to mind
Yeah,
because
that's
that's
good
what.
one.
Yeah,
That's-
I
don't-
hear,
don't make a
somewhere at
face with
69 around you guys. I hear that
Brian Adams,
regularly.
the Canadian
so.
Bruce Springsteen, as someone has said about him a few times.
You're gonna get Dan worked up, Gary.
Daniel?
We have to go to break. Oh,
If you could read my mind.
Gordon Lightfoot,
Thank
beautiful.
you very much.
all right. We will be back here on what is a busy day here at City National Arena. Speaking of, want to learn how to skate like the pros? Curious to see where the Golden Knights practice or want to grab some gear? Stop by and visit City National Arena, located in downtown Summerlin, as the official practice facility of the Vegas Golden Knights. For hours and programming, visit citynationalarena.com to learn more. We'll be right back. missing football? The Vegas Nighthawks season is underway at Lee's Family Forum, part of the Indoor Football League. The Nighthawks have 8 home games this season, still a few of those left. So get your tickets now at nighthawksfootball.com. Go Knights, go. But I tell you what, Dan, as we welcome everyone back into Nighttime at Noon, presented by Station Casinos, we've been missing some hockey around here.
We have, yes.
The news today, just swirling around the NHL, fills the void a little bit, but will help fill the void even more as development camp presented by Martin Harris Construction begins today and goes through July 6th.
Yeah, we will hear skates on ice.
Yes.
Pucks against the
no sound
glass.
like it.
Oh, my gosh. And as kind of odd as it is to say, even the smell, right? There's that smell that comes with walking into a hockey
I think there's
rink.
a lot of hockey parents out there that would disagree with you.
The smell, yeah,
But
no, that's probably true. I am excited for development camp, and while it might be somewhat overlooked in the grand scheme of the draft and free agency and even regular training camp, which will be, of course, closer to the start of the season, the development camp is often an introduction to the organization for young players, some of whom were acquired in the draft just a few days ago. Others are not drafted, but have had eyes on them by the organization and have been invited to Golden Knights camp. And some of the names will be unfamiliar to Golden Knights fans, but that doesn't mean that some of these players might not at one point become bona fide NHL players or assets of some kind. And you could go back, now that the Knights have been around for 7 years, you could look back at some of the development camps from 6-7 years ago and say, oh, this is who turned into this person, and so on and so forth. And each of these guys has a story, where they come from, how they got here, trying to prove themselves. And it also is important for the organization to instill the identity. And we have, I mean, you can see behind us here with the imagery that has been so important for this organization, the Knights Code and what it means to be part of this organization. Will Nickel has been part of this for a long time. I walked into Red Rock yesterday, and there he is, with some of the staff, greeting all of the new players coming in. One of the bits of advice to at least one of the players was, don't be nervous. Right?
Easier said than done, I would imagine,
right?
but Will certainly makes
there's no need to be nervous. Just have fun. And that's something to look forward to this week. We'll have a scrimmage on Tuesday. Tomorrow, we're going to broadcast. So that'll be real hockey play-by-play here at CNA.
That scrimmage will be at 1:45. We will stream it on your Golden Knights digital channels. It is also open to the public here at City National Arena. There will be one Saturday as well. We can't wait to have you covered all week long. And thanks, Dan, for joining on what has been a busy day here at City National Arena. And it keeps on rolling. This was Nighttime at Noon.